Hey everyone, Molly here from A Drink with Monty. COVID has made it a little difficult for us to keep up with the podcast the last few weeks, but we are back at it and trying to bring you guys some great content. We have some amazing interviews coming up, so make sure you follow us for more episodes. On this episode, John sits down with the chief of EMS at Cherokee Fire. His name is Nate Sullivan. Nate was recording virtually, but they were still able to get, some really great topics. We are just going to jump into their conversation. I hope you guys enjoy.
I'm not worried about it. Well, dude, what have I missed? I feel like I'm like on the island and nobody knows who John Montague is anymore.
You kind of are. How long have you been on?
22 days.
God.
I will be back. It should be like 20 days when I go back to work.
Are you 100% better now?
Aside from no taste and smell and like morning congestion, I'm fine.
Good.
I'm fine.
How's Molly?
100%.
Awesome.
Her taste and smell are coming back. But bro,
good.
Doc called me last night, and dude, this has just been weird. I know you and I talked a little bit, but I'm the kind of person that when I get sick, I am like sick as hell for 24 hours, and then I wake up and I'm totally fine.
Yeah.
Like it hits me like a ton of bricks. I'm freaking down, puking, whatever for 24 hours, and then I'm good.
Yeah.
This has been weird. I've never been this kind of sick before. And it's not that it's the worst sick it's ever been. It's just a totally different kind of sick. And, Doc was saying that it's like based on how much of the virus you're exposed to for a certain amount of time. And I guess I was really exposed, dude, because I was not in a good way, dude.
I don't remember. Is Molly still working, or has she been working remotely? She
has the opportunity to work from home. So as soon as all this COVID shit popped off, she kind of secluded herself and goes into the office like once or twice a week. But it's just her and Desiree Wilson, Drew Wilson's wife.
Huh. So you could have gotten it from the grocery store, from anywhere.
But bro, they had two people. They shut down our church because two people tested positive. It's been a wild ride, man. Molly and I were talking the other night, and she was like, after going through and actually having COVID and experiencing it firsthand, has your opinion changed?
Yeah.
And no, I mean, it was definitely a different kind of sick, but like I said, it wasn't anything I felt like I couldn't handle,
Yeah. Well, I don't know if word got out. I don't want to give anything away, but we did have an employee that was positive and got admitted into the hospital for a night. So some people just, all they lose is they lose their taste of smell or sense of taste and smell. Some people end up with like a cold, kind of flu-y, kind of like you were, and then we've had one that went into the hospital and another one that would have or should have if he wasn't so stubborn.
I loaded Molly up, and we were on Chastain going to Northside Cherokee. And I think she was just at the point where she didn't know what to do. She was hurting so bad. It's not that she was having, respiratory distress or anything. Her head, Molly's the kind of person that when she hurts, she doesn't say anything. She just trucks, right? And for her to say, I need help, like for her to look at me and say, I need help, that's when I was like, okay, something's really wrong. We need to go now. Yeah. But we got up the road, and I think once she got moving and things, her juices started moving a little bit, I looked at her and I said, Molly, if you want to go to the hospital, I'll take you. But I want you to keep in mind, you're going to a hospital that's probably freaking saturated as hell.
Yeah.
You're not having any respiratory compromise. You're not, you're, aside from being in pain, you're all right. I said, we're probably going to sit in the waiting room for at least 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah.
So we turned around and went to Publix and got her some Excedrin. And, man, within 40 minutes, she was like, I have instant relief. But that was the night that she got the relief, and I brought her food down, and she was like, I can't taste anything. And I was like, okay, well, now we know that we all have COVID.
That's got to be crazy.
It's weird, dude. Have you ever experienced anything like that?
No.
We've been painting and spray painting, and I've been in the garage, and I didn't even, usually by smell, I'm like, man, I probably need to vent this joker. Well, like 2 hours into me spray painting, I stopped and I was like, oh my God, I'm like dying right now. But taste, I can't taste. Like this just tastes like really bubbly water. I was drinking Budweiser last night, and I could kind of taste that, but everything else is just really cold water. It sucks.
Since Molly came back, maybe yours will come back too.
I hope, dude. I told her today, I said, I'd rather go through another day of the worst symptoms than continue to have no taste or smell.
Yeah, to not be able to taste bacon.
It didn't, no joke. Yeah, I couldn't. It sucks. Well, dude, so you've been in the fire service for how long?
22 years.
And you had a little hiatus. You went overseas, didn't you?
I did. I was here 10 years, and I got divorced and went broke and was hiding my car from the repo man, hiding it behind the building at Station 1, living that life.
Yeah.
And finally reached a point where I didn't have a choice anymore, and got offered a job to go to Afghanistan as a contractor, and I had to take it.
Is that something you'd recommend? Like if I was a 22-year-old guy, maybe not as bad off or in that situation, but if I was just a young kid, fresh out of paramedic school, was like, hey, man, what should I go do? Is that something you'd be like, hey, dude, let me hook you up with this. You need to go do this.
Man, I think so, because it broadens your aspect, makes you more worldly, an international man of mystery. You see that the U.S. isn't the center of the universe. In fact, we're not even liked in most places, except for our money. Yeah.
Contracting seems, I don't know a ton of people that have done it, but we have a couple guys that work for the county, and I have some friends elsewhere that have done it, and not one of them has been like, oh, dude, it was miserable. I never want to do that again. I wouldn't do it. It's usually the money was phenomenal. It sucked being away for 3 months, but, I was there for, a 90-day tour or whatever and home for 4 months, and I was making $170,000 a year.
Well, they won't tell you the truth about the loneliness, though. Like it's not all, cupcakes. It's not all awesome. There were times where there was maybe 2 people on the planet that knew where I was, and no friends or very few people around you that speak even English, or, just true, not solitude, but true loneliness, because you don't have any friends. Like you have some coworkers you work with, but no friends, and all your friends are 12 hours behind you back at home asleep.
Right.
So, you can't just pick up the phone and be like, hey, man, this sucks.
Dude,
overall, it was a good experience. I'm glad I did it.
And how long did you do it?
I was there for 13 months.
Straight?
Yeah. Well, no, I had leave. I think it was 4 months on and 2 weeks off. 4 months of 12-hour days every day, and then you get 2 weeks off, and then you go back for another 4 months.
What year were you there?
2007, 2008.
So, shit was popping off big time then.
Yeah, Afghanistan wasn't in the news much, but talking to other people who had gotten deployed to Iraq, Afghanistan was where it was at. It was pretty busy.
You talk about the loneliness, dude. I can't imagine. I don't like being by myself for long periods of time in my own house.
Yeah.
Your mind just goes wild. Her mind does, and it could be my ADD, but it goes wild, dude. And to tie it into what's going on today, man, I can't imagine. I'm fortunate. I guess I was fortunate to where I was sick with my family.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It would suck to go through what we all went through by ourselves, in a freaking hotel room or something, man. And that would be terrible.
Yeah.
So went overseas, you came back, and you just climbed the ladder again, dude. And here you are, the EMS chief of a large department. Welcome to chiefhood. And then COVID happened. You kind of got your ass whooped.
It was just like that. Yep.
No, literally, dude. I think you took the job, and was it a month even?
Yeah, I think
shit
they
happened?
started hitting in February. I came in January, and I think it hit in February.
How would you describe the transition from the role you had prior to going to a chief, especially in the time that you did, you
The
know?
pandemic.
Dude, yeah.
I don't know, stressful, but the I guess the hardest part was there wasn't a playbook. Like we just, if we didn't have Dr. Mabley that could consult and we could bounce ideas back of on what's what's best for the patients and what's best for our guys and best for the department and all that stuff. There just wasn't a playbook. You just had to absorb as much information as you can and make a educated decision and just roll with it until something, till you got some more information that said don't do that anymore. And luckily, the decisions we made were, knock on wood, so far have been right on point with what the rest of the country is doing and kind of the best practices. So, if not for Dr. Mabley and having that resource of somebody who dove into this disease process and she's still on 8 hours of podcasts a week,
Crushing it, yeah.
COVID, yeah. So it was pretty crazy. While at the same time trying to get a hold of normal operations and all the stuff that, all the job duties that I didn't know anything about yet.
Right. Becoming a chief for anybody and
Yeah.
in plain times has got to be a large, difficult, trying transition, but to do it, to learn the role and juggle 500 people in the middle of a pandemic, man, that would freaking suck. So do you feel like you had to put learning to be a chief on hold and just kind of only worry about the COVID and the pandemic, or do you feel like the leadership decisions and plays and all that stuff that you had to do kind of in a roundabout way made you a chief? I mean, what else can happen to you that is going to be worse than this?
If we make it through this, it's all downhill. No, I think like you couldn't, everything else didn't just go on hold. I've still got, the business to take care of at the hospitals and ordering PPE and drugs and managing everything else that goes on the backside that can't stop or the wheels stop turning on the truck. So, and then the social or the leadership aspect of figuring out how much influence I have, and where I fit in the whole, in the big picture of the department, I guess. I mean, your title gives you some authority, but I guess you really don't know where you stand with the troops until you get in there and you start seeing their reactions to your decisions and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but you're in a new role, obviously, and I get that, but not to fluff you or make your head any bigger than it already is. But dude, you were the kind of guy that people look to even before you were a chief, and you know that. And I'm not trying to suck up to you because I don't really care. Yeah. But I know me personally, I would, there were times I would call you. You and I worked together pretty regularly years ago, and I think you having that reputation definitely had to have helped you move into the leadership role.
Yeah, I think it did too. It doesn't really help with imposter syndrome when I button that shirt up for the first time. Still every morning when I button that shirt up, it still feels like imposter syndrome, and I'm just feeling my way through it. Just like when you first become a paramedic, you feel like everybody's living despite you. Your best efforts when you first start, and you're just doing what you know how to do, and you finally realize that, wait a minute, I've been doing it right this whole time. The patients aren't just lucky. I've been doing a good job.
Yeah, there are days that I feel like that, man, and I'm nobody. You know what I mean? Like there are days when I wake up and put on my uniform or whatever, we get on the Medcon car, and I'm like, dude, like, what sets me apart from anybody else that's doing this job? You know what I mean? Like I don't feel like I do anything any better than anybody else does. And I've heard of the imposter syndrome, but I guess it's never like clicked with me. But I go through that as well, and my job is a freaking small scale compared to what you got going on, dude.
Well, I don't know about the scale, but I think everyone gets it whether they acknowledge it or not. If somebody moves into a new position and they feel right at home, like they've been doing it a million years. I can't imagine what that would be like. There's got to be a learning curve, especially with something that comes with rank, where they assume that you know everything right out of the box, just because of the title and the job responsibilities. So you better learn it and live up to those expectations.
So if you had to say one thing, one statement that would sum up the transition, what would that statement be? I mean, like, if you were to describe to me, if I was somebody who was unrelated to the fire department that was one of your buddies and came to you and said, "Hey, Nate, how's it been going? How was the transition?"
My opinion holds a lot more weight now. Like, around, you can sit around the station solving the world's problems. Now, when I do that, by the end of the day, it's up to Station 18 that we're going to do this. You know what I mean? When I'm just shooting the breeze and talking about stuff we could do or should do or whatever. If I have, it becomes
the Bible.
I learned real quick that if I have an opinion, that turns into law. Not law, it sounds bad, but you know what I mean? It just carries a lot more weight. Damn. So that was kind of a.
Well, that sucks though, dude. Do you feel like you have to watch what you say now? I mean, like,
1,000%.
Golly, dude.
Just because I don't want to say anything that's going to lead to, somebody thinking I lied to them or something like that.
Sure. No, I get it, dude. I just, man, the more I, like, the deeper I get into the job and, like, see other sides of things, the less I want to promote, like.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to. Obviously, I want to climb the ladder and make changes and stuff like that, but I just don't feel like it's getting any easier. Just to I don't know. There's just been so much change, dude.
Yep.
There's been so much change, and a lot of it's good. A lot of it's really good,
Yep.
But it's, especially with this, man, I feel like, what we knew 6 months ago is gone. Oh, everything that we did and we thought was the best practice, and we were just crushing it, man. And I feel like it's gone. Like, it will never be the same in any way.
No, I don't think so either. I think we might kind of sort of go back to normal operations, but it's going to change stuff for the rest of our career. It's going to change kind of the way we function, I think.
What do you think will change? PPEs for sure. I don't think masks will ever go anywhere.
Yeah, even if they do. I think a lot of the changes needed to happen in EMS with PPE, because we're pretty lax when it comes to PPE. How many flu patients have you transported without proper PPE on? We just don't take PPE as seriously as we should, as serious as the hospitals do. So I think that's a positive change that's going to last. Like that's going to be here. I don't know if we'll ever get out of masks for every patient, but even if we don't, we'll still be more inclined to wear them when we need them.
Sure.
When we should have been wearing them all along.
So aside from PPE, what do you think is going to change? And not just for Cherokee, but for the fire service in general?
I don't know. At first we thought we were going to get overwhelmed with calls. So the community paramedicine there was a big push for that. The Medicare, Medicaid folks, the feds approved to pay for transport to places other than an ER, which is a big move, because right now EMS is essentially paid to transport. That's what you get paid for, is driving the patient to the hospital. And they will only pay if you take them to an emergency room, like under our as 911 service. But they approved, if you have an agreement with your local urgent care or different levels of care, you can transport those patients with some stipulations as far as triage and stuff. But that was a big move that they did because of COVID, because they were trying not to overwhelm the ERs. So I think that push is going to continue. It was already a big push, but I think it's going to become more and more common.
Yeah, the community medic is something I felt like I've heard, God, not ever, but for a fairly long time.
Yeah. There's some really successful programs out there.
I want to say, isn't it like, who's big? Does Denver do it? Colorado?
I don't know if Denver does. Houston has a really good program. I don't remember the acronym of what they call their program, but they have a really good program. And it reduces the loyal customers, the ones that are calling 2 or 3 times a shift. It reduces those a lot because you just have some folks, touching base with them and, are you taking your medicine? How you doing today? All that kind of stuff. So in a big system like Houston's, where those handful of people that are really loyal customers could make, a huge difference. If you take them out of the system, make a huge difference in the call volume and the resources spent. That's a big deal.
Man, the things that Chief has to think about. I don't even like thinking about that, dude.
I bet we'll see community paramedicine in this department by the end of your career. I bet you.
Will it be run through Cherokee Fire, or will it be like a different entity we hire to come do that?
No, it'll be us. Here's
a question for you, and this is related to our department. Why don't we hire people just to ride the ambulances?
That's a command decision from the chief's office. I don't know the reasoning behind it, but it's a command decision.
People ask all the time. I teach at Chat Tech, and all those guys and girls are like, man, we would come to Cherokee, but we don't want to ride the fire engines. I'm like, freaking nerds, dude. But
yeah.
Hey, if you want to come ride our ambulances, by all means. Squad 2 is calling your name.
Yeah, because we have people that would rather not be on the ambulance, and if we have somebody that wants to be on the ambulance, it seems to be a win-win. But
bro, do you think this COVID? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Then you also have people on the in a vehicle that says fire department that can't fight fire and aren't firefighters at all. So there's more. I guess there's more to it.
Right. So as far as morale in the fire service, I'll be 100% honest with you. I think that morale in the fire service has taken a huge crap since COVID.
Just because of all the restrictions, all the everything.
Yeah, and I think early on there was so much unknown, and one day we thought this thing was going to kill everybody, and the next day it was flu, and a lot of that was crappy news media, right? It was the Facebook and all that BS. But I just feel like this, like if you were on the edge of being burnt out before, I feel like this probably has just set you over the edge. And I get it. Like I see how it would do that.
And I think I've seen some of the surveys nationally where it talks about the effect on, just the street paramedics and whether it hastened retirement or whether it keeps people from getting in the job field whatsoever. And I think both of those ended up being true. Like it made people decide this is the good time to leave. I've been thinking about leaving anyway. I'm out.
And I mean, can you blame them, dude?
No. Especially not at the beginning when we thought this was going to kill, everybody that it came in touch with. If you're on the bubble about leaving before that, see
you. Fortunately for us, we're a super young department, and not many people had the option. To leave.
Yeah.
But I talked to guys over at Cobb and Atlanta, and they're just. I know guys that are like, around my tenure. The guys that have been like right in the middle. 10 to 15 years, and they're like, God, if something better comes along, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And
that sucks, man.
It does, man. I'm not gonna lie to you, dude. And you and I talked about a week and a half ago. There, I have my days, where I'm like, I don't want to. I know deep down I love this job, but there are days when I'm just like, man, why? And there are days where I don't know. The 22 days I've had off have been really good for me. I think really good. I've done a lot of. It sucked. Don't get me wrong. This has been miserable. But I've had a lot of time to kind of sit back and, reflect or whatever freaking words you want to use. But to think about a lot. And I can totally see how the situation would just burn people out. How this would just absolutely, like you said, if you're on the bubble before, you're freaking gone.
Yeah. And I, can't blame them.
No.
But luckily, we didn't have that effect here. So
Well, no, like I said,
really
I think
good.
a lot of that is because we're a younger department, and we don't have a whole lot of people that are on that bubble
Right.
that even have the option to retire.
Yeah.
If you could go back, Nate, if you could go back 6 months prior to, is this something you ever saw happening? The COVID, the vid?
No, hell no.
Even knowing what was going on in China, like when it was going on in the.
Man, I'm trying to think back. I think they were telling us at that time that it was gonna stay in China. And yeah, remember the first information we got was we had the signs and symptoms and we had to screen folks, but pretty much if they hadn't traveled to that one specific area of China, then they weren't a legit patient, and we would let our guard down and step away. So I don't remember if I thought it would come here or not, but it sure as hell did.
Yeah, I was. I didn't know if like you would go home at night, like when you first became the chief, and watch the TV and be like, "Son of a bitch! If this thing makes the jump, I am so screwed."
Oh, I'm sure I did, and I mean,
please,
like I would have had to be, having a plan for when it does,
Mother effer.
When our agency goes from wearing 5 gowns a year to 5 gowns, a shift.
And dude, we're doing the best we can with what we got, and I totally get that. But I get like the gowns we have. I'm a large fella, and I've put on a gown twice since all this happened. And dude, it's like why am I wearing this? Like it covers my nipples and my belly, and then like my arms and everything are exposed. It's like what, But I understand it's a checkbox you got to check for the state.
Well, Dr. Mabley understands it, and she's making 100% sure that the evidence is strong enough that we don't need to wear one. And if she, if the evidence is there, she wants us out of the gowns because just for that reason. It's hot, they're uncomfortable. It's just kind of it's not near as important as eye protection or mask.
So I for everybody listening, we had Nate and Dr. Mabley, who is our medical director. We did like a 2-hour phenomenal podcast with them, and we couldn't hear anything Doc Mabley said. So we've been trying to schedule it with everybody, but just timing and the COVID and kids and everything, it just hasn't happened. But the last time we had Nate and Doc on, we talked a lot about the exposure risks and modes of how infectious this thing is and how you get it. And Nate, it's totally airborne, right? Like coronavirus, you can only get via airborne. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think they've disproven that you can get it off of a table or a doorknob.
Right. So
in all reality, I think that's not where the risk is.
I remember Doc saying something along those lines that it can be on a table and you can touch it and you're not going to get it, but it's the second that it's in the air and you breathe it in or get it in your eyes or your mucosa or whatever, you're going to get it.
Yeah, and I think initially when they were doing those tests to see how long it lives on surfaces and that kind of stuff, when they would get the sample off of the table, they were able to detect a virus. So they were like, oh crap, the virus, is living on here for days, if not weeks. But then they looked at it a little bit more closely, and just because that they could detect virus doesn't mean that it was in the quantities high enough to infect someone. So it's there, but it's not enough to infect you with COVID is kind of how it all panned out.
What's wild to me about this, man, is like how different it is for everybody, right? And we have guys and gals in our department that have gotten it that have lost taste and smell, and that's it.
Yeah.
For a day, and then they're good to go. And then you have Molly, who is freaking down. I'm talking down and out for 5 days, and then you have people who wind up on a ventilator in the hospital. It's just wild, dude. And I guess a lot of it has to do with the amount of the virus that you're exposed to, right?
Yeah, it depends on that viral load. What blows my mind even more is how random the symptoms are. So since this has begun, pretty much everyone that gets sick I got to put them through a screening to see if we think it's COVID or not. So at first that screening was pretty tight, like you having respiratory distress, fever, all the right. Stuff in the checkbox. And then we started getting folks that like just their throat was scratchy and they came back positive.
And that was me, dude.
I swear all this is a sinus infection and they came back positive. So that changed everything where, it almost got to the point where if you're sick, we have to assume it's COVID until we have a reason not to.
Yeah. And that's when Maddox got sick, whether he was patient zero for us or not, I don't know, but he complained of a headache for 24 hours, ran a fever for one night and a day. It was like 24 hours, puked one time, and then was totally fine, and then I don't know, it was probably a week later that Molly came home and was like, man, my throat hurts. And then it was on, dude. The next morning she was in a bad way, and it moved with a quickness. And for me, I didn't become symptomatic or sick until another 4 or 5 days after her,
we were looking at what, 10 days probably? Was it still, would you say it was still within the 14-day window of you being exposed to Maddox?
Yeah, because remember he got sick and I called out sick, and the next day you called and said that I got the 14-day vacay. Yep. And it was still within that 14 days that I called you and said, hey, dude, I'm just giving you a heads up. I'm, I feel okay, but I got a scratchy throat and I'm congested.
Yeah. So the danger with that is like, so if I was to say, nah, those don't look like COVID symptoms, just suck it up and come to work. They say that you're infectious you're more infectious 48 hours before you show any signs and symptoms than you are when you're currently showing signs and symptoms. So that's a quick and easy way to wipe out a station and to, really put the mission at risk and put us at risk for mandatory overtime and all that kind of stuff.
For sure.
Spiral out of control in a hurry.
And I know how from good leadership, but it's crazy that we haven't come across that yet,
Yeah.
Knock on wood.
I know.
Like I said, dude, there's just so much shit. It's probably just that. It's probably just shit. But when you sit back, when you're on quarantine for 22 days and you got nothing but time to think about that stuff,
yeah,
dude, you connect the dots and it kind of adds up.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Maybe it'll go away in November. Who knows?
Dude, and that's another thing, is it? I'm going to be pissed off if freaking December 1st rolls around and Trump's like, okay, COVID, no more.
Yeah. But I don't think like I don't think Sweden is, you know what I mean? It's worldwide. I don't know. Makes it hard to believe that it's a giant political conspiracy. But
yeah. Good.
No, I just said, who knows?
I think the coronavirus is very real. Yeah. Obviously, I just had it. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm not arguing that. The expression, this is what I believe most from what I've heard. You never let a good disaster go to waste. And if you think, I don't know that I don't disagree with that. I don't know that the powers that be would let a good disaster like this go to waste. And that's my opinion. I know that's not the opinion of my employer or you or anybody else. That's just my opinion.
Well, I mean, we all know there's really heavy politics involved in, at least in how this thing is being played. There's the politics are really heavy.
And so you haven't. I know that when I go around to the stations and stuff, I love a good conspiracy. Don't get me wrong. I love hearing that stuff. I do. But, there are times when I have to be like, all right, man, we got a bunch of new paramedics. You can't be saying that around them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter if you think masks are worth a damn or worth their weight in gold. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. If that's the point you're talking about, that's how we've got to be, as that's how we've got to play this, because that's how the employer is playing this, because that's how the medical, the guidance is playing it. So the decision to wear masks here it's not political at all. It all has to do with the evidence. Like we know appropriate PPE works around
Sure.
patients that are either positive or we assume to be positive. It's
For
been
sure.
well documented outside of our agency, but our agency's done really, really well as far as not getting infected. So
right, and from where I sit, it doesn't take me looking at a bar graph or a pie chart to tell me that. I know that I've run a handful of patients that probably have COVID.
Yeah.
Been in their face, been IVs and all this stuff, and I didn't get it until now.
Yeah.
So obviously the PPE is working.
Yeah.
Right. And I just don't get it. People want to freaking get up in arms, about wearing masks. It's like, it's a damn mask.
I know.
Wear it for an hour. It's not that big of a deal. Like there are so many other terrible things going on planet Earth right now, and you want to bitch about a mask?
Yeah.
I mean, I personally don't wear them unless I have to, but I'm not going to be the person that complains about it.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's crazy times. Crazy. Did you listen to the episode with Paul Gertis, the union president for Atlanta?
No, it's been sitting in my inbox. That's the one that I'm caught up, except for that one.
Dude, he's you don't gotta lie, man. If you don't, it's okay that you didn't listen to it. It's all right.
No, I didn't hear it.
He's the union president, and he super knowledgeable guy. And we were talking about all the stuff going on, with civil rights and really specifically Atlanta.
Yeah.
And I think that, I can't imagine having to go from worrying about the COVID and the Rona and all that, like, and then on top of having to worry about, whether our fire engine or ambulance is going to get a brick thrown through it.
Right. Yeah.
From where you sit, was that, I know you guys may still be doing it, but it's every Monday, all the command staff meets, right?
Yes, sir.
Has there been much talk about that and much concern for that?
There has. I mean, we have to assume it's inevitable before it comes here. And hell, I don't think anyone's ready for it, but we want to put out de-escalation training for everyone, so that if somebody spits in your face, you don't deck them and make things a whole lot worse.
Nathan,
de-escalation training and that kind of stuff.
Don't be a hypocrite. I've run the calls with you before, Nate. Come on, man.
Well, maybe I need a de-escalation training.
No, I'm just kidding. Nate is nothing but professional all the time. Do you think that if you didn't take this chief spot, that any of this would be happening? Like, do you think God or whoever is up there was like, "Hey, Nate's taking this chief spot. Watch this.
Let's see what he's got."
Dude,
I don't know, because it's been just one thing after another. 2020.
So it's been a bitch,
man.
But dude, you got a flawless team with you. Our chief and assistant chief and everybody up there is pretty squared away.
Yeah,
trying to get some brownie points.
Speaking of those three in the command staff and really the whole department, I came in as the new guy up here, not in the in crowd, among the chiefs so much. And then this happened, and they essentially took their hands off the wheel and trusted my opinion 100% and gave me all the room I needed to run. And that was excellent. I didn't have to prove myself. They just trusted that I was going to, as I made decisions and gave suggestions and advice and gave them my input, they trusted me to make those decisions and didn't really question them, and we rocked on. So that couldn't have gone, that couldn't have been any better. It could have been a lot worse scenario.
Do you think Chief Danny West is like sits on his couch daily and is like, man,
I would. Yeah, I would.
Has it really been that bad, dude? I mean, like, in all seriousness, has it been that bad? You can be totally honest. I would say, from an outsider looking in, yes, it looks like it's been god awful.
The only bad part is it just never turns off. Like, because every time somebody gets sick, I've got to be the one to clear them. So the COVID never turns off, man. Between, just questions about it and putting people on quarantine and
Right.
self-monitor and isolation. And
how's the missus felt about everything, man? Has she just been super supportive? And
yeah, she has. And she's a office person now, so she doesn't deal with patients anymore. So it hadn't really affected her job much at all. Her job is it's almost like she works in a logistics kind of a capacity. So she got stuck with the PPE problem as soon as this started.
Right, but I'm saying, like, is she, like, I'm sure there are nights when your phone just goes off the hook and, as a human being, she's probably just like, oh my God,
Probably, but she didn't even gripe about it.
Man, good for her. That's
She's
awesome.
Yep.
I can't imagine having to go through that and, deal with, and not saying that they wouldn't be, justified in being upset about it, but, that's good that she's that way.
And we kind of, even without COVID, we kind of came to that agreement, when I decided to go for this thing, that it's probably going to be a life changer. It's not something that you just turn off at 5 o'clock every day.
Man. Well, dude, so let's move on, man. What if you had to, knowing what you know now, not COVID aside, all this bullshit aside, Nate Sullivan, looking back at Nate Sullivan 15 years ago, what do you tell yourself?
15 years ago.
10, whatever.
Where was I 15 years ago? Before Afghanistan or after Afghanistan?
After. After
Afghanistan. Man, I don't want to change anything because it's all worked out really well.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's good. That's really good. Not to change anything. Just give yourself some advice.
Don't be so hesitant to take that training job when Shannon tries to encourage you to take that training job.
Man, because I got that offer.
Did you?
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, way after you.
That was the career changer for me. That was the path changer, was going to training.
I'm just terrified to come off a truck, man.
I know. I was too. And especially to come off a truck to go do public speaking for a living when I don't do public speaking.
When you've been terrified. You're doing a great job here.
Well, nothing about going to training made any sense to me at all, but Shannon he thought I was the man for the job, and he pushed me, and I decided to step out of my comfort zone, and boy, did I. And that was really that's where you grow up. I think once you come off a truck and come out of the fire station and start living in the admin world around other professionals that aren't firefighters, and you've got to act normal. You know what I mean? You got to act like a grown up the whole time you're at work. It's a huge shift. Because you could be a kid in the fire station your whole career and never really experience that corporate, the business side, the maturity and, try being a grown up.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I love teaching, and I enjoy public speaking and talking to people and mingling with people, man. I don't know that I'm that mature. I don't know that I could do that. I don't know. You were definitely put into the spot that you needed to be in, for sure, without a doubt. And I don't think there's anybody in our department that would argue that. Even before the chief, when you just were, when you were in training, I think that you were exactly where you needed to be, man. The way that you can present material and make people understand it is second to none, man. I've always enjoyed taking your classes.
That's because I'm a dumbass at heart. So
You were the lowest
I've got
common
to present it at
denominator.
a level
So
that I would understand it.
yeah, right. No, I'm the same way, man. When people are like, we have to teach to the lowest level. I am the lowest level. That's me.
That's not true, but okay, I'll go with you.
Oh, well, it's not true for you too, then either. Can we talk about a call? And I won't get into names or specifics, but
yeah,
you and I rode day trucks not a lot together, but I would say we rode day trucks a couple times together.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget it, dude. We had a guy, or we had a patient that was removing a mirror from a garage. You remember this?
I do.
Dude, I don't want to sound like an EMS nerd, but that call, like, I remember it like it was yesterday. I remember getting in the front seat and being like, oh my God, this dude is such a badass, man.
Really?
Dude, you were just, it was one of those calls where, I was like freaking out and super pumped. There's blood everywhere. This guy's arm is wide open, and you were just, cool, calm, collective. To tell the story, this patient, they were removing a mirror from a garage, and the mirror had broken, and they were shoving the pieces of the broken frame of the mirror and mirror into garbage cans. And this individual went to go shove some wood into a garbage can, and a shard of the mirror was sticking out of the trash can. And I mean, cut everything but an inch of his skin off of his arm.
Yeah.
And dude, that's kind of one of those calls that has always stuck with me. And just, trauma is kind of run of the mill. I don't want to say it's easy, but there's not much to trauma, right?
Yeah.
But that was one of those times where I was like, man, I got to become a paramedic. I got to be a paramedic.
Awesome. Were you an EMT then?
I was, yeah.
Oh,
yep, sure was. And another thing that was so cool is you were always the kind of paramedic that let me do things, not outside of my scope of practice. But you were always the medic that was like, hey, dude, come try this. Hey, man, come look at this. Come do this. Come. This is what's going on here.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get a lot of crap from going off on an EMS tangent.
I know. You just
talk
about a SMJ for like 20 minutes.
Dude, you can get mad at me for being good at 90% of our job. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So what we haven't done a lot of together and that's fight fire.
I don't know that we've ever fought fire together.
And it's that way with most people in the department. So like what I have a hard time with is that I'm EMS Nate to pretty much everyone below the captain level. I'm EMS Nate because either I've been in training or been up here and been an EMS guy.
I would say that the people that knew you before you left for Afghanistan, I feel like those are the guys that know you as other than EMS Nate.
Yeah.
Because you spent a lot of time down at 1, right? But before you left.
Yeah, I was a lieutenant at 1.
Oh, I forgot. You were. That's time. Right, dude. Another funny story. You were promoted. You were in the process to promote to sergeant, and dude, you were sweating it so bad. I don't know if we were stationed together for a little bit, or if I don't know why I remember that, but I remember being around you frequently and being like, bro, you're fine, chill. And didn't you get number 1 on the list? Weren't you number 1? Yeah. See, I know what I'm talking about sometimes.
But if I wasn't, like, I had to live up to that standard. You know what I mean? Because I've been through this crap before.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure that was added.
So if I ended up number 10, then,
I get that. Back to EMS, and I'm
back to EMS.
This is not on you. This is EMS John.
Okay.
I feel like what I just described, Sergeant Paramedic Nate Sullivan taking EMT John Montague and showing him this stuff and letting him experience this stuff and do all this stuff. In my opinion, I feel like that is gone. I feel like, and I shouldn't say gone, I don't feel like that's emphasized enough anymore. And it bothers me because it puts a lot of, it makes the ambulance driver, right? It breeds that role.
Yep.
And I can't stand that. I hate that. I was at a hospital dropping a patient off, and a local department was doing the same thing, dropping a patient off at the hospital, obviously. And they had a student with them. And this guy, man, was just ragging the student. And it legit pissed me off. You know what I mean? And I saw it when we were waiting for a room assignment, and we dropped the patient off and came back, and you could tell this student was just defeated. You know, this person was just kind of like, and it wasn't one of our students, it was another department.
Yeah.
Like just the wind was out of her sail. And I went to her and I said, listen, it's not like this. So it is not like this. All joking aside and ego aside and hardcore whatever aside, man, the fire service is an EMS service. And that's just the way it is. I don't say that in a derogatory way. I don't say that downplaying anything. That's just a fact.
Yep.
And you got to be good at it, man. I mean, you got to be.
You do. And what blows my mind, this is going to sound kind of EMS natish, but so you take someone that is, you know, a badass firefighter, and they are 1,000% into fire. They're who you want on the hose line with you. They're who you want cutting the holes in the roof.
You can just say John. It's fine.
Okay, so you take a guy like John Montague, a really good firefighter, which is maybe 20% of his job. Maybe that's stretching it. That's playing the numbers a little bit.
It's true.
And then openly brags about not being good at EMS. So that just like blows my mind. How can you be so proud of your profession and the job that you do, while at the same time saying I suck at 80% of it, but this 20% I'm really freaking good, man.
I agree with you 110%, man. I geek out over the EMS stuff. I'm not gonna lie about it. I do. It's like not the only, but one of the very few things that I have truly gotten a grasp on. And I'm not an expert and I don't know everything, but I feel like I got a pretty good handle on it, right?
Yep.
And you good?
Yeah, Chief Robinson just walked in.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
Chief Robinson. You know, man, you taught the youth, if you will, the young generation. They are so moldable, man, and they go to these stations and they see these people who do have that mentality.
Yep.
Who from people that really aren't that good at firefighting. I mean, let's just call a duck, right?
Yeah.
But it breeds that, and they get in the stations and they hear these people that are like, "Oh, EMS stupid," you know, and I don't do that. I don't ride the squad, and they think that's normal. They think that's just the way it should be.
And that's what the cool people do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if there's one thing that pisses me off the most is to hear a newer person say EMS just isn't for me. It's not my thing. Yeah. It's like, no, it is definitely your thing.
Yeah, it's your thing whether you like it or not.
Right. You don't really have a choice.
Job. Yeah.
I've always racked my brain around that. Is how do you beat that culture, right? How do you break that mold? Because it is, man. It is absolutely the norm to complain about EMS.
It is, and I mean it's around the country. Like I don't know. I don't know how to beat it. Just chip away at it and gradually raise the bar and the expectations, you know, kind of on the EMS side of the house. And I don't know. It's a big ship. Take a long time to turn it.
But if you think about it, it is a big ship, right? It is. Yeah, you're right. But it would be so easy if everybody just got on the same page and was like, man, you know, I can count on one hand the amount of fires that I have fought off an engine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When I go to, you listen to Brady Cornelison, that guy has got a story for everything.
Yep.
And I would venture to say that 90% of his stories come from an ambulance.
It's likely. You've got 3 times you're covering the 3 times the amount of square miles.
some of my best memories are from an ambulance, dude.
Yeah.
You know, like when I think of my stories and all the things that really stick out in my head, dude, it's on a medical call or going to a job from an ambulance. Like that's what I think.
Well, before we took over the ambulances, I remember sitting at Station 7 as a rookie and thinking, this is the most boring job. Why did I do this? Because, 7 didn't have a high call volume. And then, even then we just kind of do what we can till the ambulance got there. And,
right.
And, I don't know. Running the ambulance service definitely changed the department's personality and changed for the better. I mean, like it did a good job for us that we took over the ambulance. It's a good thing.
I feel like, and I was hired after we took over ambulances, so it wasn't, I didn't experience a fire service with no ambulances. I got a taste of it at Roswell. I worked there for about a year, and I mean, you're right, man. It was kind of not boring, no, it was a good break, but different. It was very different. It's a different world, and I feel like, and you've been around a lot longer than I have, but I feel like services that transpire, services that transport seem to be so much more well-rounded and better put together.
Yes.
And from my experience, it seems because they're not just a number, right? You go work for one of these private services, and this isn't a knock at private services or anybody that works at a private service. If that's your thing, good for you. I'm not knocking you.
Yep.
But I just kind of feel like we almost hold ourselves to a better standard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Does that sound like I'm?
You mean in the fire service as a fire medic?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Just the way you look at a fire medic, a transport firefighter, and a private service paramedic, and they, to me, in my short amount of experience, it seems like the fire medic, just kind of walks a little bit taller and is more presentable and bedside manner's better. And, that's just my experience. And again, I'm not knocking anybody that works for a private ambulance service at all.
Yeah. I think speaking specifically of Cherokee, from being on the management side of it, we definitely have a higher expectation, I think, because of the service that we've always delivered and the kind of people we have doing the work. We have a higher facilities expect more from us because we're us. I told that latest recruit class that having that patch on your shoulder is a little bit of a burden, because that means you're gonna have to live up to a little bit higher standard than you were if you worked for somewhere else.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
I know that the times that I have been on the MedCon vehicle, which is like a supervisor vehicle for us, and I've gone to hospitals and talked to them, you can sense that, man. They kind of talk to us. Like you said, they hold us to a higher standard. And I've never thought of it being like a burden, but it's a good burden, right? I've never thought about it that way, and that's a good way of looking at it. It is.
I guess burden sounds derogatory, but I don't know.
No, that's a good word. It is. It's the best burden to have.
Yeah.
Right? They hold you to a higher standard. Yeah. No, I like that. Yeah. How are we on time here? I feel like I've done all the talking. I'm sorry, Nate, if I haven't let you talk.
Do what?
I said I feel like I've done all the talking. I'm sorry if I haven't let you talk.
No, I don't think you have at all.
I don't know what I'm doing. I'm probably about to break something.
So what's next for you in your career? What's next?
Man, I want that full-time spot.
Yeah. That's essentially coming off a truck.
So let me back up then. It is coming off a truck, you're right. But it's coming off a truck to run whatever. We have our calls we have to respond to, and then but in reality, we can respond to whatever we want to.
Yep.
If we are within a reasonable response distance, we can go to it.
Yep.
in taking that position, man, I feel like in the MedCon position, I feel like I have seen a totally different side of things.
Yeah.
In no way have I been around as long as you have, or I'm in my infancy of my career, but I feel like I've been very fortunate in the 10 years that I have put in, and that I've run a lot of really good calls and had a lot of really good partners, and I've learned a lot. Still got a lot to learn, but I feel like I'm able to put the stuff I've learned to much more use regularly in the MedCon role.
Yeah.
Because people aren't calling me for your standard run-of-the-mill transport, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's they got that, and we do a damn good job at it. People are calling us for the legit ones, right? The ones where it requires a lot of really critical thinking.
Yeah.
And I enjoy that. And
Yeah.
I feel like doing that, I'm putting my skills to use more often. Maybe not sticking people with the IVs or, the traction splints, but, talking people through the high acuity.
Yeah.
Or the high risk calls, right?
Or even telling them to go ahead with something that you don't know if it's right or wrong, but you give them the go ahead and do it. I got your back, no matter how this turns out.
Right. And, so doing that, it is coming off a truck, but you're still in the fire station.
Yeah.
I don't have to grow up 100%.
Yep. It is the sweetest gig in the fire department.
I agree. That is my goal right now, for sure, is the full-time MedCon spot. But I've enjoyed the part-time because the part-time's been really good for me, just because I've dipped my toe in, I've tested the waters, and, if I mess something up, I can always be like, I'm just a part-time guy.
Yeah.
Let me call Dean.
Yeah. So do you have the stress of when I was a backup? So once they name you as a backup, all of a sudden you're the CMS god, right? So now when you're working on a truck, when you're not on the car, like you're expected to be the CMS god. And,
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, do you feel that same pressure?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And man, I'm human. Like,
yep.
When it cracks me up, people call us and they ask us things outside of the protocol or standing operating procedure. And it's like, man, I'm just a paramedic too.
Yeah.
My license does not allow me to give you any kind of leeway outside of a protocol. I'll call a doctor for you, or you can, but becoming a MedCon does not add a certificate next to my name that allows me to break protocol or SOP, but yes, people ask me these crazy doses, and it's like, I get my phone out and start looking, and they're like, what, you don't know that? Like, no, dude, I'm lucky I remember to breathe sometimes.
I'm going to look it up just like you
exactly
could have done before you pick up the phone.
Exactly. Yes. And it's a pat on the back, right?
Yeah.
To be held to that standard is absolutely a pat on the back, and I don't take that reputation lightly. Yeah. I cherish that, and I enjoy that.
Yep. And I think when they call you for a dose, they're not just wanting to know the math. They're wanting to hear
that they're doing the right thing.
That you're doing the right thing. Yep.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Than that.
I agree 110%. And something that, to touch on that, early on when I was a paramedic, I would do that. I would call all the time.
Yeah.
Not all the time. I would say, like, out of 2 shifts, I would call at least once.
Yeah. And
you're exactly right. I knew the right thing to do, but I just needed somebody to reinforce what I thought.
Yeah.
And it's cool to be on the other end of that, right?
Yep.
I just feel like sometimes it's easy to forget that we were all there at one point. Yep. And that's with any position. It's, you talk to these guys that have been around a long time, and everybody says, never forget where you came from.
Yep.
Never forget what it was like to be the new guy. And I will say, and there's a handful of things that have really stuck with me, and that is one of them.
Yeah.
Is to never forget where you came from, and never forget that you were the new guy. You were the guy that had no freaking idea what was going on.
Yep.
So don't knock anybody for being that guy. How long were you a backup?
Up until I came to training. I don't remember
Huh.
how long. Yeah.
I don't remember that.
Speaking of the backups, I think they seem to have a good reputation. Not the backups alone. I think the medcons seem to have a good reputation right now. It seems to go in waves where people think they're lazy and don't do anything, and then it'll go back to kind of normal. And I think we're in the normal phase right now.
I think that there's just so much unknown.
Yeah.
That anybody that has a better idea than the next person is,
yeah.
Well,
we talk about like being successful with this whole thing since COVID started. I put it on the medcons as soon as it started to be the leaders out in the field, and I pushed out information that the normal person on the truck didn't give a shit about, so that they could be know a little bit more, and they were able to educate the other crews and kind of guide the actions that they took and keep from getting exposed and all that stuff. They were the difference makers, man. Or you all.
I think I only rode the car when, like, during the heat of COVID. I think I rode the car maybe, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 times. And
Gotcha.
but we have a good group. We've got a very, very, very good group, a very knowledgeable group, and people who are not only knowledgeable book-wise, but people who are street smart, right? We have a lot of people that can think outside the box.
Yep.
And that's really good. I feel like in EMS specifically, you're on one end of the spectrum. You're either the super book smart, zero people skills kind of person, or you're the total people skill person with maybe not so much book smarts, right?
Yeah.
But you take a guy like Kiefer, like that.
Yep.
That guy is born and bred for this spot.
Yep. Sure is.
He, I call him, like regularly. I have to like disappear sometimes. I'm like, hey, bro, what do I do here?
Yeah.
But he's jam up, dude. Yeah, no, you got a really good group. You have a really good group.
And they're also most of them are also pretty damn good firemen as well, which helps if they're first on scene, need to make a grab or something, knowing that we've got that capability. I
feel like every time I talk about EMS, you are quick to bring up fire. You're the EMS guy, not me.
I don't know. You seem to be. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, look, like I said, I'm good at 80% of my job, Nate.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, dude. I appreciate it, man. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate you stepping away from the family on a Sunday.
I appreciate you getting me to do it.
Yeah, bro. We'll get you on again, maybe in person when I'm a little bit healthier.
A little bit less infectious?
Yeah, a little. Well, today, according to Chief Sullivan, I am off quarantine today.
Oh, are you? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep, already left my house twice.
Oh, man.
Mm-hmm.
Hope I'm right.
All right, buddy. Well, Nate, I appreciate you, bro. I'm going to end
it,
and I'll talk to you soon, dude.
All right. Thanks for what you do, bud.
All right, brother. See you.
See you.